Hello, my name is Dominique Comer, and I am the Child Trauma Prevention Vista for the Philadelphia Alliance for Child Trauma Services. This training will educate you on the impact of trauma in early childhood. This emodule will define trauma, identify experiences that can cause trauma, review signs of trauma in young children, and provide guidance on how to support young children impacted by trauma. This emodule is important because children from 0 to 5 years old are at a higher risk to be exposed to a possibly traumatic event due to their dependence on caregivers. Addressing trauma in children can reduce the risk of the child developing depression, anxiety disorders, mental disorders, behavioral disorders, and engaging in alcohol and substance abuse. Understanding trauma. An event that causes a child to feel intensely threatened is called trauma. Traumatic events overwhelm an infant's or young child's capacity to cope. It causes feelings of terror, powerlessness, and out-of-control bodily arousal. A child can experience trauma by being directly involved in or witnessing a deeply terrifying incident. Trauma is individual. An event that is traumatic for one child may not be traumatic for another child. There is a range of traumatic events or trauma types that children can be exposed to. There are a variety of experiences that can cause trauma in a child. The collective impact of the following incidents can cause trauma: feeling frightened in your home or community, witnessing your parent being frightened or feeling threatened, widespread discrimination and oppression, being in constant fear and helplessness, disempowerment and disconnection, imbalance of power and control, systemic racism, and intergenerational trauma. Some additional experiences that can cause trauma are experiencing or witnessing domestic violence, sudden separation from a primary caregiver, community violence, child abuse and neglect, familial substance use disorder, life-threatening illness, traumatic grief, serious accidents, animal attacks, and natural disasters. Let's now discuss the common signs of trauma in children. The following changes suggest that a child has been impacted by trauma. Some daily changes include a hard time sleeping, struggling to pay attention, trouble controlling behavior or emotions, and a hard time making friends. Some behavioral changes are avoidance, increased clinginess, repetitive play or behavior that acts out the traumatic event, and increased aggression. Emotional changes include sadness, anxiety, fear of being alone, hopelessness, and increased levels of depression. So physical changes are changes in skin color, stomach aches, headaches, and pains in the body without a physical cause. And lastly, children may experience developmental delays like delay in developmental milestones, poor academic functioning, delayed attachment to parents, regression in development, like if a child is potty trained and is now bedwetting again, and delays in thinking, problem solving, exploring, and figuring out things. Even in the face of significant trauma, consistent care and reassuring support can serve as a helpful shield against adverse experiences and aid in a child's recovery and prevent long-term harm. Research shows that a key factor in a child's resilience is the reliable presence of a positive, caring, and protective parent or caregiver. When a child is experiencing trauma reactions, encourage parents to hold, hug, and cuddle their child regularly to make the child feel safe. Suggest parents do their best to have regular mealtimes and bedtimes to maintain routines as much as possible. And give extra support at bedtime. It's okay to temporarily allow young children to sleep with their caregiver if safe, with the understanding that they will return to normal sleeping arrangements later. If a child is experiencing trauma reactions, enable the child to tell a story of what happened through talking, drawing, and play. Encourage the child to share their feelings by following up any conversations about the traumatic event with a nice story or a family activity to help kids feel calmer after the hard discussion. If the child acts out, it may be a sign they need extra attention. First, help them name how they feel: scared, mad, sad. Then let them know their feelings are valid. For example, it's okay to feel mad, but we cannot throw things when we feel mad because that is not safe. And lastly, show them an alternative behavior, like instead of throwing things, you can play with this ball to get your energy out. Getting kids involved in activities are good ways to distract them, so play games with them and arrange for playing time with other kids. And finally, talk about things that are going well. It's important to express hope for the future to help your child recover. Helping kids cope with the death of a loved one can be hard. Families and caregivers can support their children by sharing what has happened to help children understand. Share that your loved one has died. An example can be, I have sad news. Auntie Cheryl died last night. Make sure to use the words died or dead to avoid confusing the children. Provide simple explanations to help them cope, like, when someone dies, that person cannot breathe, move, or hug you anymore, but we can still look at them in pictures and remember them. Some children will blame themselves for what took place. This is common. Please reassure the children that what happened is not their fault. Expect repeated questions. Repeatedly asking questions is how young children process information. And if appropriate, you can share the family's beliefs about what happens to people when they die. This can help bring closure and a deeper understanding for the children. In addition to supporting children heal from the impact of trauma, we can help break the stigma around mental health and encourage caregivers to get their own support. Research has shown that parental support, including therapeutic services for caregivers, significantly decreases the behavioral and depressive symptoms in children. If a child does not recover with the support that is given by the family, please consider referring them to a mental health professional trained in trauma-focused therapy. Some agencies in Philadelphia that provide trauma-focused services include Hall Mercer, Bethesda Center for Families and Relationships, Joseph J. Peters Institute, Meraki, and Children Crisis Treatment Center. Additional resources can be found at philadelphiapacs.org and learn.nctsn.org. Resources to support the creation of this training were provided by the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the Child Mind Institute, the Child Welfare Information Gateway, the Center on the Developing Child, and Uplift Philly. Thank you for training with us, and remember, you can help children heal from trauma. For any questions, please contact Natalie Dallard from the Philadelphia Alliance for Child Trauma Services at natalie.dallard@phila.gov or access philadelphiapacs.org for more information. Please follow the link to complete a brief survey to help us improve this emodule and to receive a completion certificate. For LMS, click here. For YouTube, click the link in the description box.